order. We have listened to all the important words of all the important people. And thank you for those words, everybody. And now it is time for we teachers to get to work. Because that's what we do. Now, if you like what I have to say and you would like to get some information about it, you can send me an email at this address, marcprensky@gmail.com, and that's a good way for me to get your feedback. I'm sure there will be other ways to get the presentation. But I want to start with a story. I show you this picture because this is what I was supposed to look like today. As you can see, I'm not wearing the blue jacket. Why? Because I forgot to bring the blue jacket. And when my wife did the big checklist before I go, she forgot to ask me, do you have your jacket? So no, I had no jacket, and I had to go buy a new jacket, which I hope you all like. Thank you very much for Mr. Okay. And that was bad, but not so bad as what happened to me last year. Because last year, I got to visit Paraguay. And when I went to Paraguay, I remembered to bring my jacket. But I forgot something else. I forgot my iPhone. Oi! Suddenly, I was totally handicapped because I no longer had with me my books. I read always on the iPhone, my notes, my alarm clock to get up in the morning, my camera, my video camera, and I'll tell you in a minute why that's important, and of course, all the entertainment, the shows, the games that I play, and the FaceTime that I do with my son. It turned out to be really important because in Paraguay, it's very hard, as it is in many places, to get around the streets in the middle of the day, so they had arranged for a police escort. Two guys on motorcycles who drove in the front and took us to the other lanes, and it felt like being in a movie. And I wished I had my phone to film this, but of course I didn't. So here's the most important point for today. It's worse to lose your technology than to lose your clothes. And the children already know this, because here's what they say to us. They say, my phone is my third hand. They say, if I lose my cellular phone, I lose half of my brain. So you can imagine what I was like in Paraguay. But don't worry. This is from what they do in dental school these days. I'm here. Thank you very much. And I am thrilled to be here in this beautiful place, in this beautiful country, with this beautiful weather. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I come to you from New York. And it's been like this for a long time in New York. And I come to talk to you about things that are very important. Digital natives, the kids who are growing up like this. Education for the future. And this picture I love because this picture is from the year 1900. And this was what they imagined education would be like in the year 2000. Put the books into the machine, turn the crank, and it comes into the earphones. Well, guess what? That's what we have. It's called audio books. I want to talk about imagination. I'll just touch on it. This is a beautiful new building in New York City on creativity. This is a home that was built by an architect who went out and bought for almost nothing, for very little money, a 747 airplane. college, I've taught several subjects: math, language, music. But most important of all these things, most important is that I think about what education could be. And I think that it could be so much better than what we do today, even in our best moments at our best schools. Because I'm a father too. I'm a parent, like most of you, or many of you at least, in this room. And I care about what happens to my kid, whose name is Sky, like the cielo, and who needs to grow up in this wonderful time of change. Now, here is something that I read in Time magazine last May that helped me put everything that's happening into some new perspective. Maybe it will be the same for you. The millennials, the young people of today, and some of them are sitting in this room, are more like each other around the world. So the young people in Mexico are more like the young people in Abu Dhabi or China or America or Canada or other places than they are like their own parents. Culture is becoming universal and horizontal at the young level. And of course, this is scaring people to death. Many parents will see culture disappearing. I don't know how this is going to happen, and we're going to have to deal with it. So that's something that I want to talk about, and we need to think about how these young people are like and how we can help them. Because another thing that you might not know that's different about me is that I spend a lot of time talking to young people. And we're going to have a treat to talk to 4 young people later on this morning, or maybe this afternoon, and we'll get some idea of what they think. So here are some people that I talked to recently at Tecnología de México, in the Tecnológico de Monterrey, where I was in Monterrey. But I've just shown you a whole bunch of different groups of children that I've spoken with in my panels around the world. This is Spain. I show you all these just partially to show you that my weight goes up and down, but also to let you know that I try to think about education in a different way from many people. Not just top down. From the top, how can we in the world as adults transform education? We can do some things, but we can't do everything. We have to look at the point of view of the young people. And typically that is not represented enough in our discussions. As you can see, we are a group mostly of older people. And fortunately, though, we have invited some young people to talk to. Now, I see myself as 2 things. One is visionary, I try to look at the future, but the other is really practical. I try to see things that will help us do our jobs better every single day. So today, this morning, I want to offer you some new perspectives, both visionary and very practical, that you can take home and use in your classroom as soon as you are there. And I want to do it about education, of course, and about how to teach our children for the future. Now, there's something that I have to say that is very important because I'm sure many of you are thinking it, and we have to acknowledge it. We have to acknowledge that in this country, in my country, in almost every other country in the world, we have a huge divide. We have a divide between the kids who have everything. They have multiple machines and multiple things, and we all know who they are and where schools go to, and the children, very unfortunately, who have nothing. We have both. We have children who are growing up in the most forward-thinking ways. You may have seen this. This is multitasking earlier. It's an iPad in the middle of the road. And we have kids who have almost nothing. And we have to educate all of them, not just the top 10%, not just the smart ones, not just the ones who are privileged, but we have to educate all the kids in the world. And that really is our challenge. Because the top kids, we don't have to worry so much about. They will educate themselves if we just leave them alone. We have to worry about all the kids. Because as the theme of this conference goes, we are in a very turbulent time. And we're going to continue to be in that time for a long time, with lots of things changing. We live in a very new context, world context. And it may not always seem like that, because our houses haven't changed, and our cars have only changed slightly, and here we are in a building that's very old. But underneath, a whole lot of things are changing, and it's very different now from the context that many of us certainly need, and many of you grew up in. And we see this huge gulf opening up. I see it, and I hope you see it too, and you were certainly hearing about it earlier, between what our children are given to study and what we test them on and what we do in school, and what they really need to succeed in the future. And we understand that the education that we have been given up to today, and still are doing, is not preparing them sufficiently for the future. So that is why we have the initiatives that the minister was talking about. And we have them not only in Mexico, but in many countries. And it's time that we did have them. So I want to focus on three questions. The first question is, what will the world of the future be like for our kids? And many people throw up their hands and they say, oh, we just don't know. And the kids will have jobs that don't exist, and they give up. But I don't think we have to. I think there's a lot that we can say, and that we should say about the future. The second question is, what do the kids need to succeed in that future? I'll give you some ideas on that. And then the third question, which is the most important for all of us here, is as teachers, as maestros and maestras, what do we have to do in order to make our children succeed in that future? So let me go talk about those three things. Let's talk about what the future will be. We have this new context that I mentioned, and that new context has, I see it, four elements. Some of them have already been mentioned, and I'm sure you know about this. But you may not know about this one. I call it VICA. Now, in English it's VUCA, but in Spanish it comes out to be VICA. It stands for volatility, uncertainty, which is, I say, complexity, and ambiguity. And all of those four things are much, much bigger And that's what's important. It's not the devices. Everybody has a device. There will always be devices. They will always be different. Some people will have better devices. Some people will have older devices. Some people will have old cell phones or new cell phones or iPads or whatever it is. But that's like clothing. Everybody is different. And we throw it away and we get new ones. The connection of your people is what counts. Don't have a good connection. We are in trouble, especially our students, because we have to have every person who has no on the world connection. And we have an experiment. Some of you may be on Facebook. How many of you are on Facebook? Well, there's some of you, many of you. Some of you may like it, some of you may not like it. But here's the way to look at it. Facebook is our first experiment, our first worldwide experiment in being connected and in behaving as if we were connected. And it already has a perception of the world. It's got a billion people, that's a lot of people. We're learning how to do this. We're just at the beginning. We're taking baby steps. This is number one. But what we're learning is that the network is not optional. It's not a path to what we've always done, which is the through. It is a basic necessity of people who live in the 21st century and beyond. It wasn't obviously before, but we who grew up before the 21st century are, in fact, the last free internet generation. So, what do we need to do? We need to figure out how to work in this new network world. That's one of our biggest jobs. And the other, of course, is to get everybody connected to that network. And I think that's the most important priority for education in the world, and certainly in Mexico. We will talk more about this. Because we are living in a huge experiment. You may not think of yourself as living in an experiment, but you are. It's an experiment to define what the world is like when everybody is connected. And when everybody is a node on the network. Now, I like people who come to me and say, I don't want to be a node on the network. And nobody wants to be only a node. We've all now gone to be nodes. And we better learn how to integrate that in our lives and what we've done before if we're going to have always on real-time action. So this will always be with us. It will always be part of us, just like we always have access to our car. We always have access to our clothes. We sit by them. We just get in many ways we are the issue with the cell phone. I lose it because I have my brain. I lose my third hand. So, what we need to succeed in this world, which is characterized by defense, by acceleration, and by extended brains, and by the next. history. Some of us need those, some of them. We need to think effectively. We need to act effectively. We need to relate effectively. And we need to accomplish effectively. Those are the four major things about learning more about this. I think actually is the basis of our education. And people should be able to do that by themselves when they leave our schools. Now I talk about our kids as well. And what do they tell us? They might talk with them. They tell us these things. Every group of students I have ever talked to say they want to be respected and trusted and have their ideas and values counted. That's number one for every kid I've ever talked to. Number two, they want to connect. That's why the network is so important. They want to connect, compete, and collaborate with their peers and other people around the world. Number three, they want to follow their own interests and passions and not necessarily what we lay out for them and what they should follow. And there are ways that we can make that happen. They want to create, not with the tools of the past. Those will never go away. There will always be people writing books. There will always be people doing other things. But with the tools of their time, video is very important to these kids. They have their own tools, and they want to be able to use those tools to create. And finally, and this goes beyond what we just heard a few minutes ago, they want to go beyond relevant. Relevant is okay. It's better than not relevant, but it's not the same as real. And education that is just relevant, but that doesn't have to do with the actual world they live in, is not a good education. It has to be real. Now, what do they need from us? What do they want? What do they need? They need from us to help them be
Los ayudamos a pensar de manera eficaz, a cualificar relaciones eficaces, logros eficaces. Eso es lo que tenemos que hacer nosotros con estos jóvenes y darles también motivación, darles respeto, empatía y hacer que ellos afloren su pasión. Eso es precisamente lo que los estudiantes. Llegamos a una etapa para ver que ya no se trata de puntos y puntajes como sucede en todos lados. Los niños no son puntos y problemas, no. Los niños son personas individuales y es sorprendente que tan poco le damos a la gente la connotación de gente. O sea, gente que son jóvenes, pero no por eso dejan de ser gentes. No son cosas que nosotros podamos controlar. Son personas, individuos con sus propias pasiones, esperanzas y sueños. Y nosotros tenemos que pensar en esos términos en nuestros hijos y no como parte de una lucha de poder. Ellos tienen grandes capacidades y potenciales enormes. ¿Por qué? Porque los hemos habilitado con toda esta tecnología y ellos pueden hacer cosas muy positivas para el mundo, para la humanidad, que eran totalmente imposibles en la época en la cual nosotros crecimos y en la que crecieron nuestros abuelos. Así que nosotros, cuando hablamos de involucrarnos con nuestros niños, yo no se las compro, ¿no? Nosotros no podemos involucrarnos con nuestros niños haciendo lo que estamos haciendo. Estoy usando juegos, esto, lo otro, no, para nada. Nosotros tenemos que involucrarnos con nuestros niños hablando con ellos, escucharlos. Eso es lo que tiene que suceder. Tenemos que hablar con ellos, tenemos que saber cómo escucharlos para poder involucrarnos con ellos. Y a menos de que lo estemos haciendo, cualquier cosa que hagamos nosotros para tratar de hacer que se involucren, pero desde arriba para abajo, no va a tener éxito. Cuando nosotros sabemos escucharlos, esto es lo que sucede. Aprendemos que nuestros niños están realmente llenos de pasión. Tienen diferentes tipos de pasiones. Yo nunca he encontrado un niño que no tenga una pasión, aunque no siempre es la pasión por lo cual lo que nosotros enseñamos es sobreentendemos. No siempre son apasionados del estudio. Pudiera ser una pasión por algo diferente, sin embargo, los niños siempre tienen una pasión. Y nosotros tenemos que conocer cuáles son las pasiones de los alumnos. Si no, entonces no podemos enseñarles. He visto yo hoteles en donde los empleados llevan gafetes. Mi pasión es, ¿y por qué no pueden llevar un gafete, por ejemplo, los estudiantes? La razón por la cual nosotros tenemos que encontrar la pasión de los niños es porque tenemos que motivarlos. Nosotros motivamos a través de la pasión. Nosotros podemos motivar conociendo la pasión de la gente, qué les gusta hacer, qué es lo que aman hacer. Y el aprendizaje viene siempre, ¿de qué? De la pasión, no de la disciplina. La enseñanza y la educación deben estar motivados por la pasión y no por la disciplina. Así que una de las cosas más importantes que tienen que preguntarse ustedes como profesores es, con todas las pasiones de todos mis alumnos. Y yo me hago mucho esta pregunta, y yo no les voy a pedir que levanten la mano, pero casi siempre la gente me dice, no, realmente no conozco de todos. Sí, pues conozco mejor a unos alumnos, mejor a otros. Sin embargo, independientemente de si hablamos con los estudiantes o con los maestros, siempre nos encontramos que no conocemos todas las pasiones de los alumnos. Y las pasiones de los alumnos son tan variadas y maravillosas que tenemos que saberlas. Entonces, lo que tenemos que hacer como maestros es empezar a preguntarles cuál es su pasión. Hay que empezar a preguntarles a nuestros jóvenes, y eso es lo que quiero que se lleven ustedes a casa, y creo que es lo más práctico que pueden hacer. Si mañana o el día que ustedes regresen al salón de clase, todos y cada uno de ustedes le pregunta de su salón a todos y cada uno de los alumnos, ¿qué te apasiona? Y después lo escribe, para que los niños se den cuenta que uno lo está tomando en serio y después hace algo con respecto a la pasión de ese joven. Si hiciéramos esta pequeña cosa que nos va a llevar no más de 15 minutos en una aula, nuestra educación mejoraría en gran medida de la noche a la mañana.
Bien, y llegamos a la parte importante. ¿Cuál es nuestro papel como maestros en este nuevo contexto?
I'm 15 years old and I love to fly in airplanes.
You love, once again?
Love to fly in airplanes.
To fly in airplanes. Do you actually fly in the airplanes yourself?
No.
You want to?
Yes.
Have you flown in a simulator?
Yeah.
That's fun, right? Okay. Do you want to be a pilot?
Yes, I think.
Good. I've never met anyone with that passion before. And Antonio, what is your passion?
Passion is reading.
Reading?
Yeah,
Okay. What do you like to read about?
about everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have any questions about everything, please ask Antonio. Okay, very good. And my passion is young people. I love doing this. I love talking to young people. I love being with my son. And that's really one of the things that I love most in the world. Also going to places around the world like this. Not so much for traveling to see, but I meet the most wonderful people. And there you are. So thank you all. Okay. My first question is, now that we all know your passion, how many of you think, of the four of you, how many of you think that every single one of your teachers knows your passion? Raise your hand. You think that all your teachers know your passion? Okay. So Luisa's teachers all know that she's interested in the theater. We can all see this, so that's okay. But the others not so much. So we have again a gap between what we have and what we could have. The next question, I guess, is, what did you think of what I just said in my talk? I'm interested in knowing your impressions. So we will go in order, obviously starting with Luisa, because she wants to always start. And so, Luisa, tell us what you thought about my talk, about what you agreed with and disagreed with, especially.
Well, I thought your talk was fantastic because the way you can connect with the audience is just magnificent.
Thank you. And were there any particular ideas in what I said that made sense to you or you thought differently about it?
Well, that technology is the future. There's nothing we can do about change, and we've just got to adapt and deal with it because that is what we are and what we do.
Okay. Who else wants to make a comment about what you thought about my presentation? Okay. You're up.
So, your talk really changed the way that I thought about, and I'm actually going to go and comment with my teachers and my classmates.
And how did it change the way you thought? Did it talk directly into the microphone?
Because first announced, she told us that's what mostly like changed what I thought, because like you said, the only thing that changed is the way to do it, not the action.
Okay. Good. Anything else? We will pass the mic. Okay.
I really liked your talk. I think it was very, very interesting. I agree with it, but I think you connect very well with the audience because you understand what you're talking about, and you make these conversations with us as students, and I think you understand that we are different, that things are changing, and by that I think it can be very important in making change, because we understand how they change, but we also come from the setting of the adults.
And Sabina.
Well, I'm very happy that you made this conference because I agree with you that nowadays the passion is what is really making young people do things and make sense in their life, like have a goal in life, and that's very important. And young people really have to have a passion to go through the process of growing and becoming independent. And maybe you are the first person that is actually saying this in public, that because you're in your family or with friends and you make this small talk and you think the other person agrees with you, but not like that, not like in an audience. And we really have to change, in my opinion, we really have to have a new perception of what is the education, because there's a lot of classism in Mexico, and it's very heartbreaking because we're all Mexicans like that. And so, to understand that education is not from the top to the bottom, but is horizon, or explaining myself, that we can learn by ourselves, but with everyone. And yes, that's actually.
Thank you, that's very nice. If you were the Minister of Education, and you see we have, one of the nice things is we have men and women, and you would eventually is there, and you say, I can do one thing to make things better in the education system. Is there one thing that you would think about doing?
Well, one thing is to makes us humans, I think. The thing is that we are not, language that we cannot, that is not as acceptable or as clear as science. For example, if you want to say, explain chemistry, well, it's by the rule, you know, the way you perceive the chemistry. But to compose, a song or a piece is another thing.
Interesting. Good. And that's, that's a very interesting question about the arts and the kind of creativity that is in the arts. I think one thing that's happening today, and you can tell me if you agree or not, is that all the fields are becoming more creative. Science is becoming much more creative and not just what's in the book anymore. And so that there's a lot of opportunities to do this. But you would go for the arts. Anyone else have a recommendation if you were minister of education or principal of your school or head of your school? What's the thing that you would most like to change? No? Okay. Yes? Pass.
I think maybe making sure that projects are completed, because maybe really good ideas sometimes don't get finished.
Okay, make sure everything's complete. How would you do that? What would you say to kids to make them complete their projects?
Explain to us how to make it more realistic.
Okay. So you would like more connection in real life in your project. Okay. Robert, do you have something you want to say? Okay. That's already good. Now you can also start coming up to the front if you have a question, because we'll run out of questions here after a while, and it's much more interesting when the questions come from you. So don't be shy. Now I want to go back and ask the question that Louisa was talking about before. Do you guys have any questions? And I'm going to just start some hand raising so that you can do the same thing. How many of you have your own computer? Of you four, raise your hand if you have your own computer. Okay, including how many of you have a tablet computer, like an iPad or something like that? Okay. How many of you have a phone? How many of you don't have a phone? No. Okay. Of those of you who have a phone, how many of you text on your phone? Okay. Two of you text on your iPad. Okay. How many of you have ever texted in class? Okay, we got one honest person here. Okay, now you see, you turn this around, you laugh, and you're like, how many, raise your hand if you, in the audience, have sent a text during this conference or this session or the last session? Okay, so they're not the only ones who text in class, right? And we have to understand that this is something we all do, because this is part of what we do now. Now, do you have any questions that you would like to ask the audience to raise their hands? And Luisa has one. And you can say it in Spanish.
Me gustaría saber, por lo que he estado viendo, cuántas personas ustedes traen un aparato como un celular, un iPad, una cámara, lo que sea. Si me harían el favor de alzar sus manos para leer. Eso nada más es para que vean la tecnología ya es parte de nuestra vida y pues es cambio y ya no hay nada que podamos hacer.
And why did you ask that question?
Oh, because I was looking and everywhere I went saw someone was like, the people who are taping this, they've got a device. The people who were taping it on camera have a device. Texting, I saw you texting. And that you had a microphone, the lights, everything.
certain degree, I think that culture still applies like to us, even though it is more and more generalized and globalized. I think it still applies, and like to a certain degree, it's true.
Anyone else? Yes?
I think it's a very accurate idea because I think everyone, or at least most of us, know what WhatsApp is, or Skype, FaceTime, or even Apple or MacBook Air, however it connects us in a certain way.
How many of you feel connected to your peers, to people your age around the world? Raise your hand. You feel connected to people in other countries that are your age? I'm not seeing it. Okay. How do you connect with them? What makes you feel connected to those people? Got it.
All of us use technology, and that's what makes us so connected and so alive, because there's people in China that use like Facebook or something like that, but there are people in England or in USA or in Canada that use Facebook too, so that's what makes us so alive.
Do you feel connected to some of those people? Do you talk to some of those people or play games or play games with some of those people?
And I play on Xbox Live, I play with random people from all over the world, so I think so.
Xbox Live, okay.
Yeah, especially when I play video games with random people on the internet. Like you're doing the same thing, you're in it together. Sometimes it's like a team, so you'll just randomly join up to go and take the other players or whatever it is.